We are Steven and Jill. Together, we've been buying and reselling land since the 90s.
Our data-centric approach leaves our buyers asking, how can you sell it so cheap?
Here on the Land Academy Show,
We answer that and more. Steve and Jill here.
hello.
Welcome to the Land Academy Show, entertaining land investment talk. I'm Steven Jack Butala.
And I'm Jill DeWit, broadcasting from sunny Park City, Utah.
Jill and I are in Park City all week.
Uh-huh.
Doing guess what?
Work.
Looking at real estate.
And fun. And fun. So far, we've had some fun. I think it's a good...
When do we not have fun?
I know. And we're going to have even more fun.
Wonder if there's an IRS rule on that. Like,
Can't have too much fun?
You need to, if you're going to go take a business trip, we expect you to not have any fun at all.
Right.
Like, I really wonder what the rules are. Like, you have to work 8 hours a day. It's got to be ordinary necessary. I mean, I think this falls into all of that.
Hey, if I'm closing a deal at breakfast, I think that counts.
You should just close the deal.
I know.
I just watched you.
That's what I'm saying.
And then we're doing this.
Mm-hmm.
So it's ordinary and necessary to be here to look at this property that we're going to buy.
There we go.
Today's topic.
Before we get into it.
Before we get into it, let's take a question posted by one of our members on the landinvestors.com online community. It's free.
John wrote, "Hi guys, I'm working on a mailer, and we're very interested in some states that are non-disclosure. Typically when I do my county research, I pop on to Zillow and review the areas for sale listings and recently sold listings to see if it's a hot market with lots of land moving. But for some non-disclosure states, the sold data seems pretty unreliable. How are you guys getting around this and identifying whether an area in a non-disclosure state has enough demand?" I'd like that. Can I have 2 points?
Of course.
Okay. Number one, be nosy in these listings. If you look, you'll see, like, if you really want to get into some of these listings that you say you find them and it doesn't have an accurate sale price.
So there's a core issue in land investors about what non-disclosure is. And it turns out that there's two types of non-disclosure.
Correct.
What Jill's talking about are
prices, sales prices.
Yeah, so there's some states that don't encourage or require this transaction sale amount to be disclosed to the public. Right. Texas is a great example.
But you can find them in there. It's not everywhere. I've found them in Texas.
It's voluntary. So some people do it, some people don't.
Mm-hmm.
So it's harder to get comps in those states. The second type of non-disclosure is do not mail.
Right.
I think there's probably 4% of the states that they have do not mail laws, and they're like, you can't send offers. And
you can still get the information. They just don't want you to hit them.
So there's some confusion about what those were. And the way John asked this question, it's like, I don't know which one he's talking about exactly, but
I know he's talking about A.
So go ahead.
Because he's going to Zillow, obviously.
Right.
And he's looking for sold comps.
So go ahead.
Totally get it. Dig in there. This is what's so funny about Steven and I. He's so he digs deep on the front end of data when you're pricing your mailers, and then I dig deep when I'm doing my due diligence and things like this. So you could benefit from both of us. He's doing the front end work, but you can use a little bit of what I've learned. If you dig deep into Zillow and you're in an area you're like, doggone it, I can't find any of these actual sold comps. But you know what? If you go down to the property details and you expand it, you can see listing price, last listing price, and it's sold with a blank. It has like just a dash because I didn't put it in there. And then it's funny if you go look at the Zestimate, the Zestimate is pretty darn close, if not identical, to the last listing price. You got an idea what it sold for. That's actually really good information. Which I think the other thing I want to say is too, it's not even so much. I love sold prices when they're recent and accurate, correct? However, I don't want a 3-year-old sold price. I don't really care. So if you're some of the areas you're looking at, you only have comps from 3 years old, it might as well have nothing. I'm really more interested, and I know you are too, what's for sale right now? What are people asking right now? What are the days on market right now? What's really happening not even a year ago?
Especially now with the COVID.
Right.
Because a year ago, this is October, November of 2020. A year ago, everything was fine. Everybody was toasting each other in a bar having a drink. And now that's a prison sentence in California. So, and the real estate market is completely different. So Jill's right. The most recent comps you can get, the better. Mm-hmm. You're also right about the fact that I address all this stuff up front.
Mm-hmm.
I go through a lot of this before the mail ever goes out from a pricing standpoint. So she's just checking when an offer comes back. She's verifying that and it's not always true that I did the right thing on the pricing. She's verifying that my pricing's correct. Yeah, we're buying it for 20% of what we think it's actually worth, or some version of that, and we can double our money. And so she's gathering information manually on 10 or 15 properties that come back on a mailer, and it's nice to know that the information you need is available.
Because you're doing $15,000 up front to get the mailer out. I'm only reviewing the signed offers that come back.
Which
now
is
I'm looking at it going, okay,
yeah,
how accurate were
really
we?
scrutinizing it.
Is there some weird thing about this property?
Right.
Is it right? That kind of a thing.
Yep.
Good question.
Today's topic: amazing back tax opportunities with this forbearance situation. This is the meat of the show. We are using all new equipment in a different state, and I wonder how it's going to come out.
Well, wait, didn't we? We have used this equipment from San Francisco, right? A while back.
Yeah.
So that's when we acquired the new equipment. And we're using old equipment. That's why if you're watching us, you see our headphones. It's just so much easier than traveling with our big studio mics and stands and lights. So we're gonna make it work right now.
So how do back taxes work? Without telling you how a clock works when you ask me what time it is, back taxes come with every
How to
single...
build a watch.
Yeah, how to build a watch. Back taxes come with every single property, with very few exceptions in this country, and this country was built on property taxes, I should say. So when you own a piece of property, you pay taxes on it semi-annually or annually, obviously every year. And that up until World War II, that's all that the country was built on, property taxes. So it's only because they needed to fund the war. It was all war-driven that income taxes came into play. So there's a lot of back taxes that get collected. And if you own your property outright, like the way that we do with land, 99.999% of the time, all the land that Jill and I buy is without a lender, you get a notice in the mail, sometimes once or twice a year, and it says, hey, you own these taxes. And so you pay your taxes most of the time.
Do ya?
If you have a mortgage...
That's what we're talking about. It's going to lead into this.
If you have a mortgage or any type of lender, the mortgage company, anybody who has a mortgage knows this, the mortgage company does it for you.
They make sure it's paid. They collect it for you up front.
Because you can get a lien, the taxing authority can place a lien on that property, right. and the person who's got the mortgage, that holds a mortgage, let's say it's Bank of America, just for sake of argument, they would take a second position lien to that. Back taxes are a first position lien in every situation. They go in front of everything, with the possible exception of IRS liens. So the mortgage companies have a huge interest in making sure this gets paid. So they include that in your mortgage payment amount. They put it into an account, and they pay those taxes every single year, or so they say they do. So if you stop paying your mortgage because of forbearance or because or for whatever reason you stop paying it, those taxes are going to stop getting paid.
Right.
And so this is all...
The bank's not going to pay them on your behalf.
Right.
They should.
Exactly. So...
But...
I learned a new word this year, forbearance. So in a forbearance situation where 6 years...
Do you know, I just thought of... Go ahead. I'm sorry. I have to...
Go ahead.
Remember the... was it the electric company? Forbearance.
Oh,
Forbearance.
Jill. I mean, is this that boring that you need to
I do need to lighten the mood a little
bit?
I think this is actually not a bad... we should make this a whole show. I'm not kidding. A whole show should be all about all the new terms, all the new weirdness, all the things we never dealt before in our lives until COVID. Seriously, this is not crazy.
Write it all up. I'm happy to do it with you.
All right.
So there's a material number, 33% of all the property, the residential property in this country, whether it's rented or has a mortgage on it, is in some type of forbearance or in foreclosure. That means 33% of the taxes on its properties aren't getting paid.
Right.
Now, I didn't check to see what in good times, what those numbers are, my guess is it's way less than 10%.
That's what I would think.
So it depends on the state. The states have a statute. They have statutes that regulate how they deal with back tax property, and at a certain amount of time, they take the property back. After noticing and noticing and noticing, they'll take the property back and then auction it off. Sometimes, and I don't want to get into that. It's pretty complicated. I've made a second career out of buying and selling tax property, both liens and deeds. But the point of this whole show is that I believe in about 3 to 5 years, the amount of back tax property that's going to hit the market nationwide is staggering, especially in the migration states in the Midwest.
I have a question for you.
All that spells for us is massive opportunity.
In the past, banks were not set up for this. They didn't have a plan. They weren't good at real estate. It seems like there was probably, I envisioned stacks of these on people's desks. And you hit the right guy at the right day, and he'd be like, send you a spreadsheet, and it would almost be like, tell me what you want to buy off of us as a bank. I want to say, too, we still don't scrub banks, as far as I know, right? We don't scrub banks out of our mailers because there might be some gold there. I don't seek them out. However, I don't take them out of our mailer. If a bank comes in and he's kind of interested, let's talk.
Yeah, what she's asking about is that banks have procedures about foreclosing on loans that are defaulted. So a few days from now, I'm going to talk about the relationship between real estate and paper. I'm going to talk about that in great detail. I think it's 2 or 3 days from now. But they have a procedure, so. And they get put into tranches. So they get foreclosed on, and they get like A grade, B grade, C grade, and it's just like anything else. There's a lot of companies. There's companies that these asset managers have relationships with, and they'll send stacks out.
Okay, so here's my question to you. Do you know of how, or do you think how it's going to play out in the future with these banks, and are they even set up for it?
No.
Okay. This for me is opportunity.
I kind of have that question too, because technology, last time this happened was 2010. We all know what happened to technology between 2010 and 2020. It got better and easier and faster. And so I would assume, but I have to assume because I don't know. If the asset departments, they're called toxic assets, the asset departments in these banks, if they are 10 years ahead of where they were 10 years ago, I don't know. Now more than ever, we're walking, breathing examples of this. We have all this data about real estate available to us, and we're making decisions based on this data. So hopefully asset managers in the departments are doing the same thing, and they're not going to let these assets go for a tremendous markdown just to get it done. So we're kind of talking about two different things. I'm more interested in back taxes. I'm not interested in defaulted property. It's called REO property, real estate owned.
Okay.
I'm talking about just the sheer amount of, at the end of the line, when all that's been written down and the tragedies happen and everybody's wiped their tears, and County X owns 10 times more property than it's used to owning.
Right.
That's it. Just, I'll tell you, I've been to probably 500 back tax auctions in my life, and many of them have had, it was standing room only, and many of them it was just me, and I bought every single property because nobody showed up. That's what I think is going to happen here.
Yeah, and the I don't know if we said it like this. The whole point of that, we talked about banks and things like that before going into this, but what really happens in land, there's not a lender involved. So Steven was talking about how the bank collects the money, taxes get paid, bank's not collecting the money, taxes aren't getting paid. Well, what if there's no bank? You just stop paying. People stop paying, a lot of them, and there's no lender, so there is no first position, second position. Exactly, doesn't even matter. The only position is the county.
That's right. And
that's where you're just buying property from, and it's the greatest thing. So, and I want to add one little tidbit, a nugget for people, because a lot of people are worried about these and nervous about these deals because they're like, oh, I've heard you can't get title insurance. Guess what? There are ways and there are companies that you can get title insurance on these properties, and if you want me to expand, I will. If not, I will leave it at that.
Well, that's just a little bit of background. For whatever reason, and this is the past,
right?
Back tax property had a stigma with it about not being able to take on title insurance, and that's gone. And for the reasons I just said, technology has caught up. There's companies out there that will happily issue title insurance on back tax property.
Exactly.
So the reasons for not getting into the back tax, having a back tax side business if you're into real estate, are getting smaller and smaller. The opportunity is getting bigger and bigger. And I think we're going to see unprecedented amounts of property hit the back tax rolls in these counties.
Ding, ding. Happy you could join us today. 5 days a week, Monday through Friday. You can find us right here on the Land Academy Show.
Tomorrow, the episode on the Land Academy Show is called Due Diligence, and how Jill always used to talk about the 4 A's. They've now become the 5 A's. You are not alone in your real estate ambition.
That's fun.
It's hard to talk about taxes, back taxes, and property taxes, and make it interesting. So,
That's
this
true.
show was this show was for you geeks out there like me that
just needed the darn
if
answers.
you've ever bought back tax property, whether you sat in some county somewhere in the sticks with a gavel and an auctioneer, or if you're online on places like bidforassets.com and enjoyed it and made money on it, wow, put your helmet on. This is going to be cool.
I'm trying to remember that time. I was sitting there. I don't even think I'm sure I had a cell phone back then, but sitting there with you, I know we had cell phones. I don't know how advanced they were, but sitting there with a notepad, writing down as fast as I could as you're buying the properties. You're like, give me running total. Give me running total. Where am I? Okay, you hit this mark. Okay, keep going. Let me know when I hit this amount of money. I'm like, okay. And I couldn't write fast enough.
That was one of those auctions where there were probably 10 people there. This is how every auction goes.
Yeah.
There's 10 or 15 or 20 people there. There's either that, or it's standing room only, in which case I usually leave, or it's just me, in which case I buy every single property. But the first one's the most likely, where there's 10 or 15 people, maybe 20 people. Half of them, or maybe 80% of them, are local people. Mm-hmm. They're there for one property. It might be next door to them where they live, or it's their Aunt Nancy's property that they didn't realize the family went way back and taxes aren't getting paid, and they're there to pick it up back at the auction. So my rule has always been, leave the locals alone. Mm-hmm. If I see locals bidding on properties, I stop, I don't get involved, and that's it.
Yeah.
It's a respect thing. But I'll tell you, the other properties that nobody just really cares about, and there's usually one or two other people like me there that resell property on the internet. Screw those guys. I'll buy it.
Oh, boy, that's my guy.
And this is a good luck charm right here. Jill, that one auction we went to, we bought thousands and thousands of properties.
Exactly. In case you haven't heard it before, I'm going to say it again. Thank you for tuning in. We really appreciate your support. And if you haven't already, get over to our YouTube channel, hit the subscribe button, and also please leave comments and suggestions, anything you want. We read them, and it really does make a difference on us picking topics and things going forward for future shows. We are Steven Jill.
Information
Your inspiration
to buy undervalued property.